Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining me for another Conversations in Wire. I'm your host, James Browning. I'm a sales representative here for the Soft Flex Company. We're a jewelry wire manufacturer based out of Sonoma, California. Um, I am home on stay-at-home orders, so I am doing a video from my living room. And today I'm going to show you how to make capture chain. So it is technically a chainmail weave. So we're going to be using jump rings, and it's actually a really, really simple technique. So let's go ahead and just get right into it, okay? All right, so here is a close-up look of the capture chain. If you see, the beads are actually not strung in here. So you can actually see the holes through the beads here. This is lapis. Um, and that's the only drawback about using beads in this project, is that it does orient the beads so that the holes can twist around, and you can see those. You could string the beads after you got this done if you wanted to kind of make sure that those beads are all lined up in the right way, but I don't think that's necessary. Yvonne Williams also does this, and she uses BBs, like actual pellets for a BB gun, and that's pretty cool. So anything that you want that's round or even faceted, I've seen people use faceted bicones in this project, so it's a really fun thing. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to need today. So I'm using the rings that we used for my last project, which is 18 gauge 1/4 inch inner diameter. This makes a aspect ratio of around 5, and that is a pretty good aspect ratio for this project, but maybe the better thing to do is to measure your inner diameter and have your bead be like 2 to 3 millimeters less than that hole. Because what happens is the bead needs to fit inside of the ring and yet still give enough space for other rings to be able to pass through around it. So we don't want the bead to be too big, but we also want it to be big enough to stay in once we've captured it. So the rule of thumb is 2 to 3 millimeters smaller than the inside diameter of your ring. So like I said, this is 18 gauge. This is our soft flex craft wire that I've made my own rings out of, and I used a 1/4 inch dowel. So that is the ratio for this. Okay, um, the the measurements for this is about 1/4 inch per bead plus a little in between. So if you were trying to figure out how many beads you would need, I would go ahead and figure out a normal bracelet with the beads close together and then just add about 1/8 inch between each bead. So in essence, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 beads, and we've got got 2.5 inches. So that's like a little over 3 beads per inch. The beads in this project are 6 millimeter. So that is, for this ratio, the 18 gauge 1/4 inch diameter 6 millimeter beads are the perfect size. All right, so let's actually start about getting started. So the first link is kind of the hardest, just because it's a little fiddly. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of smaller rings for the end. That's so that you can connect a toggle to it, but it's also to give you something to hang on to. All right, so we're going to take one of our open rings and we're going to thread on 2 closed rings of the smaller variety. Okay, and then we're going to close it up. Remember, when we're closing, we're going to try and close that so that there's no space between that little link up there. So right here, there should be no space, as close as you can get it. And then we're going to take another open jump ring and we're going to thread it through those 2 small ones. So basically we have 2 and 2. And we're closing this up. Okay. So we've got 2 big and the 2 little. Okay. So now we're going to take 2 more open jump rings and we're going to thread it through the big ones. And close them up. Okay, so we should have 2 small, 2 big, and 2 big, just like that. Okay, I'm going to scoot this out of the way so it can stop focusing on it. I'm going to show you how to make the little flower. So grab on to the little ones at the bottom and then let these just kind of fall to the wayside. See, these, because you're holding on to the bottom ones, are kind of tense. So you can flip one of these over to the side. So you've got like kind of an 8 going on. And then you want to open up the middle here. And our aim is to make a little basket so that we can put our bead right in the little basket. We want to be careful on this part that our rings end up on the outside of our beads so that when we pull them up, they're not stuck anywhere. Okay, so now we've got our bead captured in there and there's space on top there. So that means we're going to take another open jump ring and link those 2 right there. See? And we're going to close it right back up. So this is not what I would call a good close. So I'm going to try and fiddle that a little bit so that it is closer. There. That's a little better. It looks like my ring is a little off. That may have gotten out of shape somehow. But that's okay, we're just going to keep moving on. So we've got this one through the top 2. And now we're going to put one more open jump ring through that space again. So, just like that. And just close it up. Okay, so now our bead is locked in place. It's not going anywhere, and we have 2 jump rings just like we started. So now we just put 2 more on. Same way, just through those two. And then close them up. And one more jump ring. And it's going to go through those two again. Just those two. And close it up. Okay, so that is basically all we're doing, is putting 2 and 2. And then we're going to make our basket again. Open that up, just like that. And get a bead and pop it in there. And so now that's closed up in there. So when you are getting into chainmail, you're going to hear the term speed weaving or speed chaining. And the way that we do that is by pre-prepping our rings and figuring out the fastest way to weave. So what I've done here is we know that for each ball there's going to be 4 rings, and 2 open and 2 closed will make it the fastest that we can possibly do it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to have one of our open rings, and we're going to put 2 closed rings on it. So we'll pick up that open ring with the 2 closed rings on it, and we're going to thread it through like we did before. Okay, so now we've completed that capture of the last bead, and we can close that up. Okay, and now we're basically halfway through making that whole chain or the whole box again. So what we want to do is we want to go through those 2 again like we did before, and then we're going to take the closed rings that we had on there and we're going to pop them on the open ring. So that's going to get our rings all where we need them to be. See? 2 open or 2 linked together just like that. And that was much faster than before, right? So now we're going to make our basket again. Okay, so here you can see what I was talking about, how the ring got caught up because it wasn't on either side of this little V here. So what we can do is just gotta kind of loosen it up so we can move it around. And now it'll close. And if you see a ring that's not closed right, try and get it closed as soon as possible because it's really hard to go back and reclose rings. Do not suggest that. So try and get your closures done correctly the first time. All right, so let's do it again. We have our open ring. We're going to put 2 closed rings on it. 1, 2. Okay. Now we're taking our open ring and we're going through that space on top. And closing it up. Okay. Now we're going to take our second open and go back through that top part with the bead, and then take our closed jump rings and thread it on. Now if this process is just a little bit too confusing, go back to that one at a time thing that I showed you at the very beginning, where all of your rings are open and you're just putting them on one at a time. Make sure, oop, runaway bead. All right, so now we have that one ready to go. Take our open, 2 on, You know, these would make great earrings too, just by having a couple. And depending upon what kind of stone you're using and what kind of wire you're using would be how heavy it would get, I would assume. I really killed that ring. Try to be gentle when you're making your closures, as you don't end up making your circle out of shape, because that's not very fun to try and fix. Alright, second open, just kind of make sure they're all out of your way and go through that top. And then remember, plop those 2 open rings right on it. And close her up. You can always tell you did it right by letting it hang, so you get 2 and 2. So if you didn't do it right, you won't see that 2 and 2. Plus, they don't open into a basket right either. Okay, so this may happen, and basically what's happening is that for some reason the rings are just slightly smaller than they should be. And I don't know if that's just because, you know, they got stretched out of shape or something, but it's okay if they don't meet in the middle like the other ones did. We're just going to use it anyway. So just don't fight with your work. That's my wisdom for this video. The worst thing to do is to fight with something and get really frustrated and end up making a mistake that you can't come back from. And as always, if you get really frustrated on a project, walk away. Take a breather, because art and crafting is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be good for your mental health. And if you're getting upset, it's not fun anymore. So be gentle with yourself and take a moment and just be okay. All right, and I'm just putting these 2 on there and closing it up. That was a tough one. So we can talk about pliers for a second. For this project, any pliers, you just need 2 pairs. Any pliers would work, except for like round nose, because they don't grip very well. My favorite, especially when my hands are hurting, is I have a pair of Lindströms. I have flat nose and I have bent nose. And I find that the bent nose often gives you a little bit more control over what you're doing when it comes to opening and closing, because it's got kind of an interesting angle type thing. I can't really describe it. I'm not good at that part, but if you have not tried using a pair of bent nose for chaining, I would definitely recommend giving it a shot, because I don't know, you may end up really liking it. And then I say flat nose for the other side, because that has a lot of surface area to grab the ring. Okay, so we've got our 2 on 1, and we're going to go through the top, and we're going to close it off. And when I'm grabbing the rings, I'm trying to do as much on the sides as I can, so that I'm not warping the ring when I'm closing it. And when I'm closing it, I'm going to try and get kind of overage so that they come together real tight. See, this one snapped back too far. So there, that's what I want. Okay, so it looks like I need one more. And we're going to go through that top again. Trying to get these out of my way so I can work. And then right through that top. And then put those closed ones on there and close it up. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 of these boxes done. I have one more of this. So this is going to be the last box that we're making. Box, basket, closure, however you want to look at it. Okay, so now we've come to the end, but I don't have any more rings left, which means I need to end it. So I'm just going to set that down for a sec because I forgot to open these. I need to open up these rings, the smaller ones that I have, so that I can use them. There we go. Okay. So you've got where we would normally start with the next box. We're just going to put these rings through that same hole and close them up. This is just going to be where we can attach our clasps, or we can connect it to another piece. But this is just going to be the end rings, basically. Now, these are not necessarily the right gauge. They should be just a tiny bit thinner, I think, because it's kind of crowding everything in here. I don't think these are 18. These might be, well, they might be 18. I don't know. They look a little thicker to me. But they're also steel. These are coming from a different company. All right, so there you have it. The Captured Bead Chain. And like I said, you can do this with any bead. You could do it with facets. You could do it with bicones. Just make sure that they're the right size. So if you have an inner diameter of 1/4 and are using 18 gauge wire to make these rings, 6mm is the perfect bead size because they do not come out. And it's really flexible too. So it would make a great bracelet or earrings. Actually, these are kind of long enough to do earrings. All right. Well, there you have it. I have had a lot of fun showing you this one. I can't wait to show you the next weave I have picked out. It might be a little harder, but it's still a pretty cool weave. So I look forward to hanging out with you again. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you liked my video, leave me a thumbs up, and please share the video around with your friends so that everybody can learn how to do this fun craft. All right? Thanks for watching. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.